Hi, you're listening to Celluloid Codswallop with James and Gemma. Sit down and enjoy yourself, grab a snack, and have some fun. Welcome to this week's Celluloid Codswallop. It's probably going to be the best threesome you are going to have all week, nay, all month. So, I am joined, as ever, by two wonderful ladies. I am joined by Joanne and Gabrielle. I am, of course, James, your slightly confused host. Say good evening and hello, ladies.
Hello, ladies.
Hello, ladies. Yes, reason why I should explain that James is slightly confused is this is version 2 of the start of the podcast. We just had a slight, let's not say technical hiccup, but just a slight confusion. Alzheimer's kind of kicked in and forgot what movie we're looking at and who actually made it. James is all right, but Gabrielle and I it was the pressure. It's our first time. Yeah. Gabrielle being a virgin now. We wanted to, yeah. Be good with her.
We'll be gentle.
I concur.
So, as I may have already said once before, but who knows? One of the things I like to do is sort of look at historically how I've come to this film or things we know about it. So, Batman vs. Superman came out in, I want to say like 2015, 2016, something like that. And it got very mixed reviews. It was a polarizing film. And when, they said to, Zack Snyder basically, go forth, make, the Justice League film. They were not, people were not happy. They wanted him to make it lighter and happier and all that stuff. And when I saw the original release of the Justice League, which was 2017, I thought it was a sack of cack. I was really unimpressed by it. It was something that we discussed in take 1, 2, whatever it was. I thought as a film, it was badly put together. I thought one of the worst problems it had is the reshoots were really noticeable. You could tell things had changed. One of the big problems it had was Ben Affleck in the throes of alcoholism. His weight was going up and down. He was looking rough and not at his best. And I just thought it did not work as a storyline. But I want to see what your views are on it. So who wants to go first?
It certainly was no Batman and Superman, let me tell you that. It was definitely much better. No, Justice League, the original cut, I enjoyed for the sheer. It was cheesy superhero, good versus bad versus that's it. I enjoyed it for that reason. The only thing I didn't like so much about it is there was these characters in it and we didn't know who the hell they were. There was no story. There was no background with it. I mean, I've discussed this before where Marvel have done differently to DC, where Marvel didn't just come in with, here's the Avengers. They came out Iron Man 2, and then in the order, and you get to know them. So that's the only thing I didn't like about Justice League, the original cut. It was too like what's the Flash's deal? What's Cyborg's? Why is he so pissed at his dad? Like there was too much unanswered for me, and then it was just left like that, the way it was. So I was happy to hear when the Zack Snyder was coming back on board to give it hopefully a bit more meat to the bones, I suppose.
Yeah, it was very much a radical departure from Batman versus Superman. It was bright. It was colourful. It had no Martha. Well, sorry, yes, it did have Martha. There was actually a Martha scene in it that gets cut out for the new released one. But it was okay. I watched it in the cinema. I thought, right, fair enough. It was a thing. I didn't mind it. I was a bit disappointed. And you're absolutely spot on about the lack of knowledge about the characters. When I watched it, I thought, why are they using Darkseid, or Darkseid as I have a habit of calling him? Why are they using him? I couldn't understand the motivation for Steppenwolf because they're okay as characters, but it's a wee bit like in the first Christopher Nolan Batman movie, they used Ra's al Ghul. I never really understood that. To me, it didn't translate very well into the first Batman film. He wasn't that great a character. He was okay in the comics. He was quite complicated in the comics, but in the movie wasn't so good. So I thought, this is another Christopher Nolan thing again. Here we go. Here's this almighty power. Are they trying to compete with Marvel and Thanos? because people are going to make the comparisons, never mind the fact that Darkseid's been out for donkey's years. It meant the viewer had to have a knowledge of DC that you didn't have to have a Marvel. I mean, I'm not a Marvel person, but I can sit and watch a Marvel film and know enough from what I'm seeing on the screen about the character. But you didn't get that with Justice League. It was, you had to know who these people were. Thankfully I did, but it still didn't make for complete viewing.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem the film had is that, I mean, obviously they weren't happy with what Snyder was doing. And, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, Gabrielle, when you were saying how it was a rush to get a load of characters into one film. The original plan, as I understand it, had been they were going to do like a Batman film, probably like a Cyborg film, and then bring it all together. And this sort of thing just didn't happen. And I've got to be honest, I can kind of see a little bit of what happened and why they chose Joss Whedon. So they think, great, he's done the Marvel stuff. We've got a winner. And probably they were thinking, we've got to try and make it more kid-friendly or more family-friendly. We've got to condense all this stuff into like the 2-hour times or whatever it is, which is clearly not what happened with Zack Snyder's vision, because it's like a 4-hour mammoth masterpiece of a film. But you also got, looking at what happened with the original Justice League release, was not well received, I don't think, by a lot of people. It didn't do that well at the box office. And fairly early on, you were hearing the ruminations of people saying, where's the Snyder cut? What's happening with this? Is this film going to come out? So it's taken until 2020, getting to 2021 for this film to be released. And it was not a film that is, well, I would love it to hit cinemas, but I can't see it happening. But you get to watch it online. And the first thing that hit me is the opener. The opener is nothing in any shape or form like what we saw in the original cut. In fact, there's so little of the original cut in this version. It is entirely a different film. But whereas we had an opening in the first release that was seeing the aftermath of Superman's death, we're right in the heart of it at this film. As soon as it opens up, you're seeing a very violent response with the scream that Superman gives as he's being killed and the ramifications of that. And I was just like, as soon as I sat and watched, I was like, holy shit, this is going to be something so good and so different than the stuff I've already seen, we've seen before.
That surprised me, actually, the Scream one, because you were wondering when was it going to stop. It just seemed to go on and on and on, right round the planet. And then, of course, we see the island of thermoplastic, which all the, as I call it, because I can never quite remember. Is it
Themyscira?
That'll be it, Themyscira. Yeah. Yes, where I live, in my alter ego as Queen Hip replacement. So I was really, really thrilled, actually, to see it, that Hippolyta and the Amazons had quite a big part, actually, at the beginning of it.
Joanne and I discussed this, like, directly after we both watched it, and I was like, I kind of cried, and she was like, me too. I'm like, oh, thank God.
It was not fully, no, I have to say, it'll not do my reputation any good, but my eyes did water.
She did cry. She got moist in certain areas. We'll go with that. No, it was definitely something, and I'll give it DC and Zack Snyder its credit for this, because it didn't feel like it was put there as here's one for the women, the girl power, shut them up thing. It didn't feel like it. It felt like it was the most natural, strong women empowered, whereas Marvel done that really stage scene at the end of an Endgame where all the girls got together. It was like, yay! And I'm like, oh, why not? You were not there. Anyway, it was still made me cry. It still gave me goosebumps at the time. But that's why I like the opening of the film when it opened, as Joanne said, in Themyscira, and that big, them women, just show them your fear. We have no fear. You're like, oh my God! Goosebumps! That's a goosebump.
Yeah. That gave me the chills as well, because it reminded me of 300. I thought, you're seeing the female version of the Spartans, and the women were properly muscular and fit. And whenever they were shown initially in the first cut, it was gratuitous. There was an awful lot of up the crack type shots, even with Wonder Woman when she was in her civvies. It was from the angle was from her bum all the time, facing up. And Gal Gadot is slim, and she really doesn't have a big arse. So that's just this wee tiny dot, on the screen with the camera pointing upwards. But the women were dressed differently, yet in the first Wonder Woman series, the first Wonder Woman film, the women were dressed appropriately as Amazonians. In this one, in the Justice League, they were then very skimpy looking. I mean, they were riding into war with like 3 hankies and a bandana, whereas the Atlanteans and the men all had armor on. In this, the women, the costumes make sense. They didn't make sense before. Now they make sense. The ones that hold up the gates as well. I noticed there was one of them. She's appeared. Yeah, the blonde girl who's the bodybuilder.
You would not screw with them.
No, she's appeared in the other Wonder Woman films, so she's a recognizable character. They sacrifice themselves in the end to try and keep the mother box. I was going to call it a wonder box. What the fuck that is, I don't know. To keep the wonder box. No, I'm doing it again. The mother box in the temple. And let's face it, if the Amazons can't keep it secured, nobody can. Because it turns out nobody actually can.
No.
I mean, the whole starting point of the film was, I preferred it seeing the way Batman was introduced. I do find it interesting in these films that no one really seems to give a fig about anyone's secret identity.
No.
Clark, Bruce,
Yeah, poor Bruce. Let's face it, how many times has Alfred accidentally let slip who he is in these films? Everyone he shags, like they all know what's Bruce Wayne. He's Batman.
Yeah.
Oh, it's him, the orphan.
Pretty much.
I liked it with Batman in this one. He was not the focal point. I very much like that about this film. As you were saying a bit earlier about his weight was fluctuating and stuff, and obviously he's heavier in this one and he's bigger, but he just looks incessantly tired in it, and it's like he wants to do this so he can change into old Bruce, the Bruce that can chill the fuck out and not be doing this shit no more, because he is still mortal at the end of the day. And I loved it when he got in the car with Barry and he says, well, what's your superpower? And he's like, I'm rich. Yes. So he made the joke of himself that everybody makes about Batman anyway. He has no superpowers. He's just rich. But I like that he wasn't, no one of them was the focal point. It was the team. It was brilliant. I just loved this whole cut of it.
Do you know, I thought Bruce Batman was actually a very human character in this.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes to the detriment maybe of the Batman mythos himself. I mean, some of the other characters, Wonder Woman steps in and protects him from Kal-El when he comes back that time. There were a few times where I thought, this is not really my Batman. I don't mean Bat Affleck isn't my Batman, just that Batman was a wee bit more vulnerable and I'd maybe like to have seen him. I still enjoyed it, but I just thought he was a bit more vulnerable than the Batman that I know. And I don't know whether that's necessarily a good thing or not. It did irk me a couple of times. I thought, come on, people, this is Batman. Even though Batman is he is the human amongst the super dudes, he still can outthink them and outclass them in every way. But he was defenseless on a few occasions.
Yeah. See, I saw that, but I thought it was maybe a bit hopeful that he's going to start focusing on getting to the point. Because, I mean, I know we all know Batman's been around forever. Like, he's been eternally in his 30s and 40s. I mean, in all the films, no matter what film, what cut, he's always in that age range, no matter what way you go. But it's nice to see that he's growing with us at the same time. So that's how I saw it in a way. It was just a bit, that's the only reason I liked it for that side of things. Like, it made him, there's more to come, but maybe not from him taking the cape out, because he turns into old Bruce later, and then in the comics, doesn't he? He goes old Bruce. And
there is a version of him that way, but Frank Miller's Batman or Dark Knight Returns, Bruce is probably in his 60s at that point, but he still has that age. He can still take them down. In fact, he takes Superman down in that. Sometimes it does look quite Frank Miller from the point of view of some of the camera angles and how Bruce looks, but I think there was definitely times where Batman was almost like a sidekick in terms of his vulnerability. And I don't know. What do you think, James?
Well, what I particularly like with this film is he was not comical. If you look at the cut we got with Whedon, he was more of a figure of fun, like the common, when they do bring Superman back from the dead, spoiler alert, if you don't know now, you're never going to know. He's sort of saying the do you bleed line is used against him, and he's like, Batman gets pushed into like a car and hurt, and he's going like, oh yeah, I'm definitely bleeding, something's definitely bleeding. And I'm just like, it's too comical, it doesn't work. Whereas in this film, at least, only one sort of little scene, but it touches on the fact that when Cyborg says to him, I didn't think you were real, and his response is, well, I'm real when it's necessary.
Yeah.
That was cool.
What's that word? Solidifies him as he's a legend. No matter what age, shape, he will eternally be the legend that is Batman. It's a nice way to sort of be seen, if you know, even though they've worked with him, it's still, Jesus, are you real?
One huge thing with this film is the fact that, you see this massive difference in the film from the what was released, and I'm starting to understand why there was so much kerfuffle, shall we say, over it. Cyborg. If you look at the cut of the first film that came out, Cyborg is pretty much this minuscule character who does not very much.
Yeah.
I mean, whereas in this, he probably is one of the main focuses of this film. He really moves it on. And you see quite a tragic, well, it is a very tragic backstory with the character. You know, and you see really what happened. He lost his mother. There's problems to do with that. He's got an appalling relationship with his father. He's a destroyed, broken human being. But he's the cog in this whole thing.
Yeah, it let you know this time what his powers were, like what exactly he could do. I mean, the first one, it was like a bit, okay, he can control computers or something. It was a bit vague, but this was like, whenever they had Cyrus as daddy doing that voiceover of and no system can outwit you, you can create anything, you are basically a god at the end of the day, is how no matter what you want to do, you can do it. I like how it done that. It showed you exactly how he became Cyborg in a beautiful way. Obviously, it wasn't beautiful for him. He looked kind of tortured, kind of in pain. But for us, the viewers, it was a beautifully done. It wasn't just all in your face, a boohoo story. It was sort of like in his parts of recall. That was fine. I wish to kind of give Barry Allen the same little bit of a build up, because it wouldn't have taken much, because I still don't know how the Flash got his bleeding powers.
Yeah, they don't really go into it, but I suppose Cyborg, nearly in the other film, was a high-powered vibrator.
Yeah.
In many respects. He didn't feature much. As a comic book character, he's okay. I think he just doesn't have the personality of the other ones, but they did make him look like another worldly being, I suppose, because he has been infected by the power due to his father's intervention that time to try and save him from the mother box. Mm-hmm. So he does come across as somebody that's a bit unusual, certainly, and it is portrayed that way. Classic use of slow-mo during the football scenes. That's the one thing. There was quite a lot of slow-mo for everybody, really.
Excessive slow-mo.
Yeah. Wonder Woman.
If I had to check out the slow-mo, it probably would have been 3-hour film.
Yeah. Sometimes it worked. Wonder Woman, when she throws the suitcase up, or the briefcase that full of the explosions up into the air, was very slow. Mm-hmm. I suppose it highlighted the jeopardy of it, but it's been a criticism of the film. Some people liked it, some people really didn't. There was slow-mo as well for Aquaman. There's slow-mo for everybody, really. I don't know why it was used so much. Actually, thinking about it now, why was it used so much? What was he trying to do with that? Apart from maybe really wanted a 4.5-hour movie and thought, do you know, whenever you add extra spaces into things and extra words if you're doing a really hard assignment, I wonder, was he being paid by the minutes? And that's why he was putting slow-mo in, probably.
Well, they certainly... I was going to ask you both a question, because I couldn't work this one out. So Wonder Woman, ostensibly we got the same sort of introduction start as she did in the Whedon cut, which is she's stopping something in London, some terrorists. Is it normal for her to be able to stop machine gun fire? Because I don't ever recall her doing that sort of stuff. I mean, she did it a little bit, I guess, in probably her first film, but I don't recall her sort of doing it that much, unless I'm just having an old man memory moment. But
no, but did she not do it when she went to No Man's Land in the first film, when she got out and they were all blasting the bullets at her and she was like, you know, pew, 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 all this here shit? Was that not that? Did
Good
that not
point.
happen?
Well, no. Good point, well put. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was just surprised, like she was moving at extreme super speed in this film, and I couldn't remember whether I'd seen her doing the extreme speeds and stuff so much.
I'm thinking in probably Wonder Woman, it was World War One. It would have been some sort of Gatling gun. So did he go full automatic or semi-automatic? I can't remember. Seen him hitting the switch at the side of the gun.
He done the switch. I haven't put it. It fired 30. I remember because I saw the 30.
That'll be probably semi-automatic. Yeah, that's the three wee red flashes. Yeah, I thought that was quite good, actually. Yes, there was I did sort of disbelieve. I thought, would she be quick enough? Would she really? I don't know. But I kind of went with it because thank fuck for that, she actually fought like a proper Amazon in this. Whereas in Wonder Woman 84, she was a ballet dancer, and that got on my tits so much. When I watched it that time, I thought, fight like an Amazon. You did it in the first movie. You did it in your first film beautifully. Because there isn't, as I said, she has a minuscule bum. There's not very much to her. And somebody of that light a build, yes, she's tall, could look weedy and something like that. But the way she fought And the use of the music and the power and the way her bangles clang together so she can use them as a sonic weapon. You believed it. You believed that somebody of that build was as strong as, say, Lucy Lawless was in Xena, because Xena was very imposing. And I think that was one of the criticisms whenever Gal was chosen that time, was she was such a finely made person, ex-model, yes, ex-soldier. She'd done her conscript time in the Israeli army, but she didn't have that thing that Lucy Lawless had. You believed Lucy was Xena because of her height and her build. Whereas you looked at Gal and you went, you're not really that, you're not muscular in any way. And if you imagine Wonder Woman as an Amazon's comes into your head, somebody well developed, well built. But in this, I believed that she was strong enough. She's half god, so she doesn't need to be built like a brick shithouse, I suppose. But all the same, her fight scenes were amazing, and that was greatly extended for this new version, because I watched a quick bit on YouTube yesterday where it showed the Joss Whedon version compared to Zack's, and the amount that went into it in comparison was incredible. And all credit to him as well, because that was a good scene as it had been, but he just made it so much better.
Well, I think just from looking at the film, I have it running in the background as a memory aid for me. It's just visually, I think it's better. I remember seeing the first trailer to this film, and I remember I was talking to Sean about this, just saying, just visually the trailer looks better, because I know I sound like I'm really kicking the crap out of the Whedon version, but sod it, I am. As you will both know, I'm getting like raw rage. I like to give a little story to everything. So when I went to see the Batman vs Superman when it came out of the cinema, and I probably told this story before, so apologies if I'm repeating myself, I came out of seeing Man of Steel. They were showing it on the evening before the film came out, and the entire cinema was packed, and I mean packed to the rafters with people going to like the midnight screening of Batman vs Superman. I went to see Justice League on the day it came out. It was like ghost town. When you look at this film, for example, Steppenwolf in this looks vastly different. And I love his communication with Darkseid. Decide, I don't think he had any involvement, did he? And did we ever actually even see Darkseid in the original Whedon cut? I don't think we did.
No, he wasn't. This is his first screen debut. I mean, yes, Steppenwolf still sounds like somebody's grumpy uncle. Oh, and his voice was I still think his voice was a bit strange, but yeah, what a difference in his costume. Do you see the little scales? His little scales of armor would move every so often.
Did you see that as the heart was beating? You could see the.
I never noticed that.
They were I saw it and caught it and was like, oh, look at that, so class. Every time he took a breath in, there's like, it's not like a shape of a heart, like a cheesy as shit version, but you could see there would have been like where a heart would be, just that random little something deviation in the armor, and what would be a heartbeat, you could see it like the vents or the opening, closing.
Wow.
Then a couple minutes it would open and then close again. Like you've heard me. I see wee things. I mightn't pay attention to the picture, but wee things I will spot. Weirdly enough.
Do you know what he reminded me of? And particularly whenever you see him going down to get the mother box in Atlantis, he looked like a hammerhead shark. Just the way the horns were. He looked like, now his eyes weren't on the end of his sticky out bits, as a hammerhead shark would weirdly be, but he was like a land shark. He was threatening, he was imposing, whereas in the other cut, he just looked like some sort of generic villain with armor on. It was quite disappointing, and it made him underwhelming as a villain. That's what it was about the first bit. It wasn't just the fact that you didn't know who these boyos were. Steppenwolf was underwhelming. You thought, yeah, whatever, who is this boy?
Like, why is he doing it?
That's all these
playing.
Yeah. Exactly.
He was. Mm-hmm. It made him a bit pathetic in his groveling. Like, it's like, motherfucker, if you can get these boxes together, why are you not doing what Dawn Boy should be doing? Like, here.
Yeah.
Know your power, own your power, you evil villain man, you. But I didn't like how they made him so grovelly to the bag. I mean, like, you've got Marvel do it in ways where you have people going trying to achieve Thanos' goal, and they're not grovelly to Thanos about it. It's like, I'm going to do it, and if I don't do it, well, then I'm fucked. That's the end of the conversation. There's no groveling as such. And I know he has to make right for certain wrongs, but if he had got, sounds really bad to cheer the villain, but if he had got the boxes and took over, I'd be like, happy days, you done it, you done the work. But then for him to do it and some other random villain to be taken the credit for it would have just pissed me off a teeny bit. Like, who the fuck are you? If we were going to get that film in the future, I'd even cheer it. But we all know we're not now, so...
Yeah. Well, Darkseid, you see, is the ultimate evil in the DC universe. He takes over worlds and makes them to look like Apocalypse, where he lives. Everything has no hope, no life. Thanos is actually, in many respects, a better person than Darkseid is. Yep. I mean, there's an interesting comparison. Thanos simply wanted to make the world and the galaxies and the universe a better place by taking away a third of people. Then that would be easier on resources, easier on the environment. Interesting enough, because he would have been taking a third of bacteria as well. He wanted a third of everything that lived. So that would have been kind of interesting.
You're saying Thanos is responsible for COVID? Pretty much.
Yeah, he took away our antibodies. But apart from that, you can almost...
Or he's a hippie.
Or he's a hippie. Yeah, he is. He's like, man, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. This is a great idea. I'm gonna just snap my fingers, man, and make it all go away. But his was for altruistic reasons. His was for the greater good. And it could be argued, okay, right enough, before that he's gone on to planets and he was killing a third of people. And I think it is a third. Whereas Darkseid, he just wants to rule it all. He wants the antimatter life equation, whatever the fuck this is going to do. I can't remember. It's been a long time since I read the comics. To just make everything the same. He wants to neutralize everything. He wants to make it pain and misery. Nobody's going to get a benefit anywhere. Whether the Marvel character's seen it as any sort of benefit at all. I would say there's probably some people that have been quite happy if somebody clicked their fingers and half their family would disappear. Let's face it.
No fucking comment.
Yeah, I don't think about you, Gabrielle. But yes. Whereas if you lived under Darkseid, there is no hope. You're living on. It's a nasty place.
I can honestly say, seeing Darkseid did not make me think what I thought when I saw Thanos and his thinking. And I've told you this before, Joanne, and I don't think I've discussed it here, but how random is a thought to have when you're watching this film and Thanos comes out and he discusses his plan. And I'm like, he has just ripped off the Bible, literally sacrificed his child. He wants to send something apocalyptic to clear out like quite a lot of society, to give it a fresh start so it can appreciate things. Yeah, okay, that's pretty much Thanos. Whereas Darkseid did not make me think that.
The Book of Revelation.
I never thought that.
Yeah.
I mean, I find it interesting watching this, and it does. Some of these scenes are popping up over your shoulders, so to speak, because they're over there. To me, you see the fight scenes with Darkseid. He's a badass, even when he gets beaten. You know, when the combined powers of every gym on the planet, by the looks of it, on the body shape of these people, when he's getting like destroyed by the Amazons and all the various gods. He still puts up a good fight, even when he gets like hammered by them, and you work out where they put the mother boxes and things. He still is very imposing and scary. I mean, I do find it interesting that the Atlanteans have like a cool way of creating a box, as do the Amazonians. What do the humans do? They bury it in a hole in the ground. They go to the woods somewhere and go, well, just put a bit of dirt over it, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, just put it. This would have been. This is the equivalent of killing somebody and burying them in your back garden. And patioing over the top, isn't it, really? Nobody will ever know. This is the Brookside equivalent of in the DC universe. Man, yep. Everybody else have these really cool guards, whereas the giant vibrator known as Cyborg has nicked it at some point and is keeping it in his wardrobe.
Just saunters down the street with it in a wee bag.
I mean,
like a carry-out.
Again, I the parts that show you the total difference between the happy clappy, Joss Whedon version. It's like when the Lanterns are getting their asses handed to them by Steppenwolf and Parademons, where they're basically just like kicking the crap out of them to get answers and then stick these things that like suck the information out of the brains. Just a much better way of doing things. I'm getting ahead of myself on this point, but I will just say this now, and I'll probably say it again later. How the fuck is it so different and better? How did Whedon screw the pooch so much? How?
No, I don't think he was. I think, like you'd said, like he was given this under 2 hours. You need to bring in all these characters. You need to do this. And it's like he was given, it's like when someone writes a really bad script, but the actor's the one showing on screen and the actor gets the berating because it hasn't come across the way it should. I think Joss Whedon done what he could with what little he had. And I mean, you have to remember, Zack left halfway through because his daughter died.
True.
So it was sort of left, everything was left sort of a bit in the air. And I was like, this is what we have. This is what we need. You need to fix it. So he has done what he can. And I'm sure he kept what he could in it. He didn't want to keep all of Zack's stuff in it. Obviously, he wants his own credit. He's getting paid to do this now. He's taken over something halfway through. I'll never say he screwed it up, because to me, he didn't. If he was given it from the beginning and he was given all the time he could and he was given no strict guidelines, I think he would have made it, yes, a lighter version. He wouldn't have made it as dark and as, slow-mo as Snyder, but it would have had more chance. It's like he entered the race with his legs tied together. He couldn't get going because he had everything against him, if that makes. I'm not saying it wasn't a brilliant film by any means. He just didn't have the materials to build it to what then Zack had, because let's face it, the company have nothing to lose anymore by releasing the Snyder Cut. They've made their money in the first place. So they're just going to rake some more in here by releasing this.
Yeah, I'm actually wondering, though, Warner HBO have said it hasn't made as much as Wonder Woman did whenever it was streamed and shown in the cinemas earlier on this year, end of last year. But yeah. I wonder, is that maybe Warner going, look, we can't be arsed to make any more of these Snyder verses, and they're just making excuses, because apparently in America HBO had problems streaming for 24 hours.
They crashed,
which would have cost them a lot, because some people might have went, well, fuck it, I'll not bother. I'll try and pirate it from somewhere. I'll wait for somebody else to maybe send it to me if I'm lucky. See, one of the issues was apparently that the whole campaign as well for the Snyder Cut that started off, it was done by the cast, and it was done by fans, and it was done by some of the actors. Apparently some of the fandom was quite nasty.
Yeah.
I'd heard that.
And so maybe they don't want to be seen as, yes, we've capitulated on this occasion, but don't think you can do this again. We did this because we've seen it as good business sense. Whereas if they actually said, this has been a major success, there's been lots of money, they'll go, oh shit, here we go again. Fandom's going to get on its high horse again and demand these other films. I still think they will anyway, because I think the Snyderverse is certainly the best way for DC to go. Then are you actually rewarding some of the nastiness in the fandom?
Yeah. To me, the film felt a lot like redemption and closing of books because we all seen at the end of the film for Autumn. It was for his daughter at the end. He finished that for his daughter. And I think he was probably not entitled to it, but he has probably also gone, I don't know who's went to who, but he's probably gone and said, look, I need to, for my own sanity, my daughter was a DC fan. My daughter loved this stuff. I need to finish this for her. I will do my cut. I will make it better. And to me, the whole film reeked of redemption, but not in a bad. The whole thing, it was redemption for Snyder. It was redemption for the Joker. It was redemption for the Flash. He wasn't such a piddly character in it. Cyborg, the Amazonians. It was just everything got redeemed, and I think that's how I felt about it being re-released. It's almost like it was demanded by the fans and all that there stuff, but I would think Snyder had quite a lot to try and get it done, because to fight to get it, because that would have been his grieving process at the end of the day as well, you know.
Well, the wife, you see, was part of it. His wife is part of the production team, so I can't remember her name. Yeah.
Deborah.
And apparently,
Debbie.
Yeah. Christopher Nolan and Debbie said, never show this to Zack, because this would just break his heart. It's so bad. And as you say, because it was probably tied up at a time when his daughter had committed suicide. That's the only thing. There was some sort of public fundraising to try and campaign for the Snyder Cut, so that they could buy billboards and different bits and pieces to try and push the request for this new cut. But they also donated so much of it to the American Suicide Prevention, which I thought was quite nice. So there was some good things came out of that, and obviously we got this fantastic cut. But I can't help but worry that fandom these days can be quite nasty, and there's people that have been bullied. There's been people that have been bullied off Twitter. Look at the amount of bullying that happened after the last Jedi with Rose. Wasn't it Rose? The Cantonese character.
That's a similar facial expression for me, Gabrielle.
Oh no. Forgive me, I can't remember the name. It was the traitor's love interest in the second one. Oh, fuck me. Her name's gone out of my head. But anyway.
I just thought of Lawrence Chaney in Drag Race, how he came off Twitter because he was tortured because...
did he come off Twitter?
He came off Twitter because he won and you didn't deserve it. And he was ripped apart. Like, I think he's back on that. He came off it for a while because it was the trolls were so bad for him. Like,
so there you go. There's another example because probably they thought Bimini had been robbed. So it's like getting a happy medium between saying, yes, okay, that's great from a business point of view, but we're not rewarding your toxicity.
I mean, looking at the film, as you said, it's a big reward for the fans who always wanted to see it. Going back to something within the film, I love the interplay between Alfred and Bruce, because I was really impressed with Jeremy Irons and Ben Affleck's working together in Batman vs Superman, particularly the line where when the entire group are first introduced to Alfred's response was, "This is Alfred, I work for him."
Yes. That was lovely because I think it gave Alfred a wee bit of a buzz.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was also good to see an explanation of some of the cool gadgetry that Batman actually has, like the gauntlet stuff. It made sense. You actually saw him getting involved in fights with the Paradines and people, and seeming to have more purpose rather than just, I don't know, what did you just swing on a rope a bit in the original cut and kick a few things around?
I like that Wonder Woman took the piss out of the gauntlet things as well. She's like, wonder where I got that idea. You're like, so that was very cute.
And by gum, did they come in useful?
No, didn't they just?
When Kal-El nails him later on, and you thought, and Batman genuinely looked like he was going to shit his tights at that point.
Yeah.
We've heard the theory. Well, it's not a theory. Snyder has confirmed it, sort of. But whenever you see in that scene in the Park of Heroes, Hero Park, whatever the hell it's called, and Superman's going buck daft, and Batman's shitting his bullets, and then Lois turns up, and all of a sudden he stops, and he's like, ooh. Everyone's all, he loves her. It's true love. It's like, no, it's not. Because earlier in the film, when Lois was grieving, in her top drawer, there was a pregnancy test, which was positive. So he did not sense his love for her. What snapped him back was a Kryptonian.
But
they will never
makes sense.
Interesting.
So it was never his, all right, okay, it snapped him back to then realize he loved her, but that's what made him stop. He didn't see everything as enemies because he's come back. He's not dead no more, and all these people he doesn't remember until he recognizes something of home, which then helped him remember all the rest of it. See?
I have to say, he did look very sexy when he was angry. I prefer angry Henry Cavill than in Justice League where he was, I don't have a top lip. Angry Henry Cavill.
That's a good point. Yeah, he at least has a face that works properly, unlike when they'd CGI'd his tash off in the.
He looked like he had really bad Botox or fillers or something around that area because his top lip was completely frozen looking.
I like how you were looking at his face.
Well, that's true. I wasn't looking at his face, I must admit, in this other one. Our Superman for me, I've always been a Batman person.
This is the happiest I've seen you two for ages.
This is true, just thinking about it. But Batman, well, I'm thinking now about Affleck's bum. And Batman vs Superman extended edition. We'll go back on that again if we're not careful. But Batman, I've always been a Batman woman. I don't know, it's because Batman comes across more as a kinkster, and I've always liked that dark part of him. Whereas Superman is just Superman's missionary all the way, and he never really did anything for me. It didn't matter, never mattered how good looking he was. It was just I found him bland. Whereas Henry Cavill just brings something to the character that I've never really noticed before. He actually says that in an interview that I was reading with him. He said that he wanted not to make him the overgrown schoolboy, the big blue schoolboy. He wanted to make him feel more realistic. And I think, credit to him, he really does. Apart from having nice bops, he's a very good actor.
Yeah. I think he brought the Clark into it because if you ever notice, I think I've discussed this with, I think it was Finch before, how all the Superman all the Superman movies focus on Superman. There's no real Clark focus. Barry's this geek with the glasses, no boohoo, all this here. Then you get Smallville with Tom Welling, which is Clark focused, and you fall in love with Clark and who he is, and you see then and I think Henry Cavill he literally brings, you see Clark, you see Superman, you don't just see Superman you don't see, do you know what I mean? You can see the both in it, if that makes sense. That's why I think Henry Cavill, he just brings the Clark into Superman.
I would like to ask Henry to bring the Clark and Superman into me if he's not doing anything later on tonight. If he's not busy, if he could just look really angry and make his red eyes go red, that would be great for me.
The red eyes. Oh.
He'll do you in the bath. You at least know that, don't you? That's the extent of his kinkiness. He'll do you in the bath.
That's true. Yes, because he came across to me actually in the original Batman vs Superman, the theatrical cut, as a bit of a panty sniffer. Because the way he would stand and look at Lois,
saying that, yeah.
It doesn't. It's like, you know, you knew that he was maybe cracking one off over our sock there. Just something a bit. He disturbed me greatly. So whenever James and I reviewed the Batman vs Superman extended cut, I thought, yeah, he's a complete character here. He's not this weirdo that he really did appear to be. And suddenly then him getting into the bath with Lois didn't seem really creepy. It was like he was stalking her even though he lived with her in the original one, whereas it was more of a normal relationship. And I could understand why Lois fell in love with him and why she was... There's a character there, Lois Lane. I can't remember the name of the actress, but I thought she portrayed the character of a grieving person extremely well. You could feel the absolute sorrow with her, how hard it was for her to get up in the morning, because she could see the world was grieving over Superman. As his mum had said as well, the world's grieving over Superman, I'm grieving for my son. And you could really see that with her. And she goes every day to his monument, and she gives the coffee over to the cop that's guarding the monument. And she was just a really nice, complete person. And I thought she did it extremely well.
Do you know what I loved about her? And I think that what she does is, you know, the original films, you have Lana, who clearly has the thing for Clark. You have Lois, who has the thing for Superman. Then you have Amy Adams, who literally, to me, while she is badass Lois Lane, she's a reporter, she has something at home about her, something, the safety of Lana about her at the same time, which you don't want to kind of hate her. Anyway, because you could tell Lois loved Superman, the ego, the hero, the cape. She loved that. And I always kind of disliked Lois for that reason. It's like, oh, there's more under that suit than him. And then you always I personally cheered for Lana because she loved Clark and Superman would be the bonus. So I just thought Amy Adams beautifully just portrays them both without even trying. You know, it might sound really silly because it's just one character, but I thought she brought that beautifully into it.
I also thought she had lovely hair. I just wanted to put that on. That was one of the first things whenever she walked across. I thought, okay, her hair's lovely. And I love the fact that she wasn't going to work, but she did herself up nice just to go to the monument. Because we find out later on she hasn't been to work.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I like the fact that you actually saw a bit more of what was going on with her from the grieving process. You saw her going to the monument. You didn't get any of that in the original cut. But I'll just test your geekdom here. Do you know what's special about the policeman? Or should I say, be more precise, what's special about the man who plays the policeman?
The only thing that I noticed that was special about him is the fact that he thought drawing a Glock on Superman was a good idea.
Oh, fuck.
I thought that was going to work. Hang on here, I just reach here for my gun. I'm going to, no, that's not going to work. No, who was the actor?
He's clearly a tough guy if he's going to do that. It's the name escapes me, but it's the man who played Jimmy Olsen in the original Superman films.
No way.
And he was also in the Back to the Future films playing Dave.
Oh my goodness, I didn't even recognise him.
Yep.
Goop, that is a Goop moment.
We're not talking about Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop here, sure.
No.
We're not?
No,
yeah.
just Goop. Goop. It's my word for a shocking moment, a Goop.
All right. I hear the word Goop and I just think of Jade eggs up somebody's fanny, and that's about...
Right.
And weird candles.
Yeah, and weird candles, yeah. Candles that smell like this smells like my hoo-ha. When? After we know exactly what part of the day.
Right. We don't need to know. Let's not. Okay, Gwyneth Paltrow can sell her own shit. Let her sell her shit. I will never.
She probably would sell her shit.
Yeah, I wouldn't personally buy a foof-smelling candle. Wouldn't buy one. But each to their own.
Yeah. Could you imagine smell the candle? Yeah, that just smells like a fanny. Wow.
Ah, fuck.
yeah, I could just see that. You go into somewhere and go. I mean, if she was selling them in a shop, and you go and look, it's Mother's Day. I'd really like to get my wife something nice. Could you sell me a candle, please, that might smell like her family? Yeah, sure. We've got a Paltrow's whole range here. We have that.
Step this way, sir.
Yes, I've just been on the exercise bike there for an hour range.
Cheesy taco.
Yes, there's the HIT, the high intensity training range. So many different ones. There's the probably could do with a wee bit of a scrub, hasn't seen the shower for 2 days range. All those.
That would be the cheesy taco range, Joanne.
It would be there. Then there's of course I've completely waxed myself from head to toe because I think I'm going to get a shag range.
Oh, that's right. Okay, let's get back to John wants Henry Cavill to shag her twice. There we go, in the bath. Okay, right, back to Superman and his beautiful body and not fish smelling.
Well, here, and if he's super speed, we don't want super speed, but I have to say.
Here, speaking of super speed, right? Mm-hmm. And this is actually relevant to the discussion we're having, not foofs and candles, but the film.
The filth part of the film.
No, just the films in general, right? When we were discussing the original Justice League, I think I'd said this something before. To me, Marvel done it good. Remember where I said they introduced the characters? It was almost like they were in it for the long haul with the sex, right? Imagine a really good set. You've all this foreplay going on, bit of a tease, bit of this, bit of that. Oh yeah, baby, and then all of a sudden it comes to the climax, end game, happy days, everybody's happy, right? There's been lots of shit played with. There's been lots of stuff going on. Everybody's happy at the end of the day, right? DC came in, went, ooh, let's have a quickie, bang, ain't nobody satisfied, going. You give you the wham, the bam, and not so thank you. Do you know what I mean? That's where they needed to learn from, if they look at it like that. So that sort of brings it back a little bit. There you go. That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they left me wanting more.
I like it.
Yes. They left us wanting more, and that's no bad thing. You wanted to go back again for a second date. Sometimes you have to
go back to get finished. You want to go back to get finished.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you see, sometimes read the comic, finish it yourself. You didn't need to finish it yourself.
That's true.
So yeah, the Snyder film left you satisfied, your hair completely ruffled and sticking all over the place. You're in a state of shock. The Whedon film was like, and?
Yeah. I mean, as the way to look at life is sometimes you have to go back and do something again to make sure you didn't like it the first time round.
Yeah.
That's true.
I will say this remake, Zack Snyder's Justice League, it was good for a quickie, good to be satisfied, but it still left bits, there's been so many things teased. It's almost like they got the spot the odd time and then went, psych, we're not doing that anymore. Did you see the Green Lantern ring at the beginning?
Yes.
That's never going to happen, so why the fuck put it in there? Why was it there in the first place?
Well, I think that was because on their own, the Atlanteans, the gods, and the Amazons, and the useless men, because let's face it, what use are humans going to be at that time? Couldn't do it all on their own. It took a Green Lantern to step in too. It was the age of, the Age of Heroes, which happens again later on, and that Diana actually references. They said there would never be another Age of Heroes. I wonder who that went to, actually, because the ring usually goes out and finds somebody else.
It wasn't Ryan Reynolds anyway.
You don't think it was Ryan Reynolds then? Just hanging around.
Ryan Reynolds.
Even he would run away from the Lantern ring if it came near him right now. Don't think so. Not here. I am not in to receive that package.
That was an Amazon delivery.
Very true. So, I really like the way they brought Clark back from the dead. It was a bit more interesting and a bit more there's a bit more emotion to it. You see the picture of his dad, and it goes into the water and things, and they just seemed a bit more. Well, for one thing, it made a bit more sense bringing him back. When they actually had Barry doing something worthwhile, bringing him back. Yeah. And as you said, it was so much of a better scene, so much more of an emotional scene when you see him coming back and people dealing with him. And certainly the interaction between Martha and Clark and Lois is much, much better than it was in fake lip, original version. But I was going to ask a question about the whole thing when they've sort of brought him back. The black suit.
Oh.
Did you like that? I did. I really liked that. But you know what really disappointed me when they brought him back? Where was the mullet? The cowards have still not brought us the proper black-suited, long-haired Superman that we should be getting.
Yes, that's true from the death of Superman when his hair was longer. I didn't even think of that. I was just so pleased to see the black suit because Whedon, he went with the traditional blue and red, the good guy suit. Whereas I thought it gave Clark was like, he was almost like he had mourned who he was in his first version. So he was wearing black for his rebirth. I just thought it'd give him a really nice edge. And I know we'll end up seeing a lot of cosplayers now in black suits. An awful lot. Because it is just it's so striking to see. So yeah, it was lovely. And did you notice that whenever he goes back into the crashed ship, that it brings out different suits for him to choose?
Yes, I like that. And
yeah, I could do with that.
There was also a body, wasn't there, in one of the dead body in one of the pods.
Oh,
but interesting. I also found out that if you go back and watch the Whedon cut, his suit looks very bright, when it's the coloured suit, and it's simply because the original footage he had that was Zack Snyder's cut, it was the black suit, so they had to basically computerize it all to make it coloured, to make it the traditional red and blue. Well, it's red, white, and blue. It's the American thing, isn't it? The red, white, and blue.
Where's the white? There's no white. It's yellow. It's yellow.
It's the Star Spangled Banner thing, isn't it?
Are you getting confused with the boys or something here? Because I'm pretty sure where's the white difference? Where's the white?
Probably me. My memory doesn't work properly anymore.
The boys is great, apart from the fact that Carl Urban is shit. But anyway, his accent.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a dick. But anyway, we'll not go into that. That's a story for another day.
Yeah.
But no, I thought, yes, I was really glad to see that. And it suited the seriousness of what was going on at that time. We were facing the end of, Earth's fucking really, really, it's important to everybody. It's important to Marvel and it's important in the DC universe, which is fair enough because that's where we all live. So I suppose it's quite nice to think that humans are narcissistic enough that our planet is the most important thing anywhere in time and space. It's all happens here.
That's true. I also did, like, when you finally see all the mother boxes have been got and, the everything's going to basically go shit wrong. And they've gone to somewhere in Russia, I think, aren't they, where the giant, it's probably supposed to be like Chernobyl or something.
It is. I think it's supposed to be Chernobyl.
I'll just say one thing that makes me really, really, really happy about this film. They got rid of that stupid, sodding Russian families thing. What?
Yes. Yes.
It was bad enough when I watched the original cut, and I'm like, why is this pink? Why is this so shit, the CGI, that it looks like, somebody on a bloody Amiga's been working on this one. And then the Russian family. Why? It didn't serve a purpose. Anyway, yeah.
Gabrielle, you have a family. Obviously, if things got really tough, that you and Gordon would move the kids out to somewhere like Chernobyl because it's lovely out there. It's the perfect idea. It's why would you not move your family to somewhere that they could possibly die painfully of cancer?
But you'd make sure the insurance is up to date first, like.
Well, that's true. Aquaman says in the other cut that whenever I can't remember, someone asks him, look, why on earth would you move your family out here? And he says, this is what happens when you've nowhere else to go. Would you really go all the way into a radioactive wasteland? Now, I know it's getting better, and there are certain tours and all that you can go in now, and you can stay for very short periods of time. But even at that, you could even go to the outskirts. Once your kid starts growing 4 legs and a tail and barks, you've probably gone too far in.
Yeah.
But if you went, look at it this way, when you talk about, weird stuff, and things growing, could get cheap food, 4-headed goat or 8-limbed sheep or something.
That's another ironic thing. It's because there hasn't been as many people in. There was a series about it. I can't remember what I was watching. I think it might have been a Guy Martin. No. 4 nipples, was that? Yeah, Guy Martin. I think it might have been Guy Martin. Can't remember. Actually went into Chernobyl. I was able to go in there for a very short period of time. But the report coming back was that the wildlife was starting to take over an awful lot more, and because there hadn't been there's not the same interference from man, that nature was coming back quite well. But there, the sky's a funny colour, and and now you got parademons. It's not really the ideal place to raise your family.
Yeah.
It did. It just made no. Yeah, and they made in this cut. If you look at, certainly they gave a lot more to Cyborg, and they gave more to Barry. They made him more of an actual believable character. You know, he had the relationship with his father was very touching. You know, going to see him in prison. He tried to get a job as a dog walker. Okay. He got to his future wife in the shape of Iris, who he saved from the car crash. But he also he had the importance of the fact that he created all the electrical field for bringing back, you know, Superman. But the beautiful, wonderful scene when he's sort of doing the basically, you know, powering up the battery sort of thing at Chernobyl to try and defeat, you know, Steppenwolf and stop Darkseid. And you see him sort of saying that comment where he says, right, you know, if I felt like I'm going to die, Dad, I've done my best to try and make you proud. And that's a very emotional, lovely scene to see. And then you see him sort of doing things like, you know, I'm correct in thinking he reverses his time a bit, doesn't he?
He does. See, him and Flash and Cyborg basically save the day at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They are basically the ultimate heroes, and I'm so glad they got the character arcs they were given in this one, because without Cyborg being able to read the mother boxes, because he's technically part of them, without the Flash going faster than he's ever done before, that something funny kind of happens with time, he was able to rewind the time that couple of seconds. So technically the villains succeeded. Technically they won. They damn well won. And if it was not for Barry the Flash, it would have been a totally different fucking movie. We would probably not have gone to see it, and it would have been very disappointing. But if it wasn't for him and that surge of power and that fastness to rewind the time just that bit, it was amazing. I thought it just gave them the real, him and Cyborg were both given that character arc and polish finesse that they needed, really. I thought I
liked the fact that you were able to see what happened when the heroes didn't win. I love that, because I often think in Star Wars, here going back to Star Wars again, in The Return of the Jedi, I would love to have seen Luke going, yes, I will slay Vader and rule by your side, Palpatine. And there's always that, I wonder what would have happened if the dark side had won. And you see in this actually what would have happened if the baddies had won. And it's quite horrific. So I was quite pleased with that. And Barry's manipulation of the Speed Force, that's pretty traditional. Barry has gone into Speed Force a few times to change things. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But it was well done. This actually, it was kind of unusual as well. Did you notice the way he ran? He ran like somebody's mum. Well, he ran like my mum ran.
Out his run a bit. A funny arm thing that he does.
Yes, but we always used to laugh at my mum when we were kids. When she ran, she was like, you just could sort of maybe see that of you. It was like, you know, the arms were sort of like going in funny directions.
You put it perfectly, Gabrielle, and you were saying how it was, there was, you know, well, to be fair, the people who were the real heroes of this film were not so much the characters you would expect. Because Superman, really, if you think about it, was sidelined until they brought him back in at the end. This is the real fun part, because you can see this, but anyone else that doesn't know, I'm doing a lot of hand gestures and hand movements. But he was brought in really at the end of the film to fight, you know, and kill Steppenwolf with his sad, sad eyes. I love the way they got rid of Steppenwolf in this, compared to the, you know, oh, look, it's so scary. Parademons feed on fear, as we got in the original cut. And, oh, look, I'm going to, you know, I'll insert some weird scene with Batman fighting some villain who's like a mugger, because, you know, parademons feel fear. So in the end of the original, the parademons will attack Steppenwolf because they feel fear. Go fuck yourself. That was terrible.
Yeah.
This was a proper ending.
It was. Did nobody else think whenever Wonder Woman took his head off, I could hear going, there can be only one? She completely Highlandered him. She clouded him.
That makes sense, because think about it, when they were digging up Superman, Barry did say to Cyborg, do you think she likes all? Do you think is she would she be attracted to me? I've got a thing for older women, and she's like, she's 5,000 years old. No, do you think she likes younger men? He's like, she's 5,000 years old. Everybody's young to her.
That was brilliant. It was because you could start to see the relationship between Flash and Cyborg developing. And I thought that was quite nice because obviously because they're probably around about the same age, so it kind of made sense for them to bond.
Yeah.
Even though Barry still runs like somebody's mum. I mean, we've got to go back to that again. What the flailing arms and Barry? I mean, he
Not
didn't
to be
run
funny,
like...
I'm somebody's mum and I don't run like that.
That's true, you don't.
He's just got long arms.
You march angrily into things. There's a difference, Gabrielle. You don't run, you march angrily. And
Lady, I'm a sprinter. Lady, I'm a sprinter. My arms are in, my fists are clenched, and I go like a fucking thinger, like. But I have never seen in my life anyone run like. Well, it did. Maybe Aurora when she was about 7 years old.
But he does. He runs like he's just lost control of his limbs in some way. That I can't believe that he could actually turn back the hands on the clock last weekend whenever the clocks went back an hour. Forward an hour. My goodness, there we go. The clocks moved some distance. I'm in the Speed Force, so obviously I'm confused what direction the clocks are going to be in. But he just flailed. He's a flailer.
Yeah.
But to me, that keeps his geekiness. That's the wee nod.
Yes, you're right.
You're right. It's his geekdom. It's his flaw, and that's what he has. He has the flaw in there somewhere. You know, it's his wee. Already, he's a total geek, and when he's the Flash, he'd be seen as a hero. But the way he runs just keeps that geek nod. It's like Superman and the curl. There's always something a bit geeky about it. You have to keep a nod to the geek, I think, in there.
What I did love, though, was the way, as I said, the proper getting rid of Steppenwolf. Because I do remember reading when they talked about what, way before this was ever released, they were sort of saying in the cut, he gets beheaded. I'm like, whoa, that'd be something. But yeah, they really do it well. And the shot you get of Darkseid, Granny Goodness, and Desard on the planet, where they're basically saying, well, because he's going to crush your head, isn't he, Darkseid? He's like, he's no use to me now. But yeah, and they're just saying, like, well, what are we going to do? We're not going to be able to take the planet over. And he just goes, basically, ready the troops sort of thing.
Yeah.
We're going to use the old ways. So
yes.
Basically, we're just
fuck this shit.
Waste.
And we will never know what the old ways are, because again, there will be no follow through.
Yeah.
What a shame.
I mean, I do like the fact in this film there was that it showed real loss, real emotional impact upon the characters. You had Cyborg losing his father. You had, which was quite a thing, because in the original cut, it ended with a nice happy ending and him with his dad, but there was actually a proper resonance. He lost his father in it. That really was something that showed you the sheer impact, the emotional impact that the loss of Clark had on people, on Lois and on the world in general, was it was something else. And the emotional impact that, Barry's estrangement from his dad, great stuff that you didn't originally see. And then you even sort of see with Aquaman saying he's got a forged relationship with his father, and get away from Amber Heard's weird English accent in this film. But,
Yeah. I was just kind of glad that when I saw Mira in this one, I didn't see Amber. And that's one thing I'm always sort of, because Amber Heard has such that bad reputation, that stigma now. And personally, I don't like her myself for all of it. But I'm really glad I didn't. I was really worried when I saw her, I would see her, not Mira. But I saw Mira, and I was totally fine. And she wasn't in it that long. If she had died, it would have been people would have stopped bitching about the fact that she's coming back in the next Aquaman. Who's going to play her? She can't. She's dead. That's it. Shh, leave it be. But she wasn't given any more than what she should have been given, which I thought was good. And neither was Aquaman, because Momoa is such a presence, and he's so adored, and he's such a character that I was sort of worried when Aquaman was in it, he would, not him on purpose take over, but that he would. But his lines were literally one-liners. He had zingers. He was just a cool uncle somewhere along for the ride to kick someone's butt, because we didn't need his story, and that's what I really enjoyed. We didn't need his story because we've had it. So I enjoyed that. He was just a cool uncle along to help kick someone's butt. That was it. That's literally why he was there. He was part of the team. Didn't need to know anything else about it, and it didn't feel wrong.
No, that's a good point. Actually, I hadn't thought of him that way. I think he brought a bit of humanity to them, trying to remind them, hang on here, we could fuck this up and that will cost humanity. Whereas Bruce is more, humanity's fucked anyway, it's worth the risk. I think Aquaman was trying to mitigate the risks a wee bit more, he didn't. I think he didn't believe it was their right to make an overall decision for all of humanity. And whenever you see him, he's more about saving the individuals. He was living in these small towns, depending on the season. He rescued the Scottish trawlermen that time, and
he did.
He was in, is it Norway? Because they come down to sing him off, which was a beautiful. Oh, it's Iceland. It was a beautiful Icelandic song. So he was very much known, and he must obviously have been kept secret as well by these small communities. So he's all about the individual and the smallness of the planet. Bruce is more the big picture, whereas Aquaman's the individual and the family. So yeah, he's a very, I think it's quite good. Whenever you have a team, you need people in the team that will do different parts. You need the big thinker, you need the deep thinker, you need the extrovert, the introvert. The ones that'll go out on a limb, and other ones will go, you need to think about this. So the team probably had all that. I think Diana is probably the most well-rounded character of the whole lot of them. Yeah. She doesn't have the same flaws, but then she has been around 5,000 years to work it out.
Yeah, she didn't have much of an opinion either when it came to things. It was always Bruce, and she was just there to do that. I didn't sort of, Aquaman was allowed to voice his opposition to an idea. You never really heard Wonder Woman give her perspective, her thoughts on it. It was just she's going along with what was going on. But I did like the scene where she was almost she couldn't quite get to her sword, and then Barry just did up to her, and it was like, oh, awesome. So even she needs help. It was nice to see that they all needed help at some point.
Speaking of Wonder Woman, one part that I loved just for and I still remember seeing it when I watched it the first time. I was like, whoa, is when you see Cyborg seeing the future, and he sees the death of people, but you see Wonder Woman on a funeral pyre with coins on her eyes.
Yes.
Like, holy shit. I mean, that was...
Yes.
Yeah, that was something.
That was great. I really liked that as well, because it was very... It took me to some of the scenes in Xena where some of the warriors, they were being burnt, and Xena would cry at their funeral pyre. I thought it was very Amazonian, and you see the grief with Queen Hippolyta. Again, more grief. Grief is definitely a thread through this. I hadn't really thought of that before.
It's probably, and Snyder's own grief was working its way through the whole villain at the same time.
You can't see that now, yeah. I mean,
but you see characters properly getting picked off as well at that point. You see Aquaman's killed on his own trident. You get to see the Omega beams properly being used by Darkseid, which was just very cool stuff to see. And you get to see the fallout from the death of Lois, what the effect it's had on Clark, which is interestingly in the Batcave. So I thought it was in a strange location to have that happen.
Mm-hmm. I said, I love how the end, that's, you're talking about things that happen in the future, that's one. And then you've got I know I'm jumping straight on to like the end chapter, the epilogue
go on.
The future, you have the future.
Talk about it, yeah.
Yeah. And you've the Joker there, and Bat's talking about how Harley died in his arms, and how they're coping with this. And I have to give, I was actually talking to someone the other night, and they pointed this out, and the comics, Joker killed Robin. That's fine. But I loved how Jared Leto just throws in the zinger. Never send a boy wonder to do a man's job. You're like, oh, you didn't say it. You didn't go there. You said it. Oh boy, I loved seeing the Joker in that epilogue, and I know everyone is so hard on Jared Leto. We were discussing how Whedon's version is crap, but it's not his fault because he was so restricted. I always felt the same with Leto and his version of the Joker. He could only do what he was bloody given, and there was lots of shit cut that wasn't shown. So this, I thought, again, redemption in some way. He only was given a few minutes, but he showed more menace and malice and mischievity in that. Is that even a word? Mischievity? Is that even a word? Anyway, if it is or it isn't, I don't know. But in those few moments towards Batman, he's just there for chaos and carnage and does not give a fiddler's fuck about what he says. And I lived for that, and it just, to me, redeemed him.
Well, let's talk about what he says. He actually used the quote where he mentions, James knows here, he's laughing because he knows rightly what I'm going to say. He says that he would always be there basically for a reach around for Batman. That was actually Jared made that up. That was an ad lib. I wish I could remember the exact quote now. Basically, that he's saying that he's always good for a reach around for Batman. So don't kill him, because you know that I'm always there for a reach around. But apparently Jared Leto, he ad libbed that and they kept it in, and it's perfect because and Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, which has had a massive influence on the Snyder franchise. Batman and Joker have a strange relationship.
Yeah.
You know, Joker calls him Batman darling. He's in love with Batman. Yeah. His whole life revolves around Batman. And he comes out of this sort of like catatonic state that he's in like an old people's home, like in a care home, when he sees Batman has come back again out of retirement, and that wakes him up. His life and his meaning is Batman, and he will do anything to keep Batman's interest. Even getting his shit kicked in is foreplay to Joker. So that sexual tension that the Joker feels towards Batman, that certainly Batman does not have any intentions that way with the Joker. It's never reciprocated. Jared, I thought he portrayed that beautifully. He just nailed that aspect in the head, which nobody ever touches on in the films.
No, I did think it was a very good scene, and I love the mention of the death of Harley Quinn as well.
Because I was like, oh.
Yeah. But I also like the fact that one thing, when I saw the original version of this, the Whedon version, I remember the one part of the thing that I was the most excited by was the scene between, it's Deathstroke, isn't it, and Lex Luthor on the yacht.
Yeah.
Now, in this, it's slightly different because he doesn't tell Tim, let's start our own baseball team. We just let a league of our own. But in the original, in this one, he starts saying, basically, I know who Batman's really is. He's Bruce Wayne. I've given this information. Run forth, destroy, sort of thing. Which I still think is a brilliant scene on both versions of the film. But I love seeing this alternate nightmare future where clearly, Batman is not able to do as much heavy weightlifting as he once was because he's noticeably skinnier.
It's just the suit holding him up.
It seems to look like that.
I mean, I love that it showed the Martian as well. It was just, there was so much in that epilogue that was just...
Well, when he wakes up...
Beautiful.
From the nightmare, because I do like the fact that he also touches on the nightmares in this film, because he's talking to Diana earlier on in the film, and he says, I had this weird dream where, I'm sat here and Barry Allen appeared and told me stuff. But I'm going to ask you both this. So the scene, Bruce wakes up in his glass-fronted Lakeshore house cum garage, and meets the Martian Manhunter we've seen earlier in the film. This, speaking to Lois Lane, pretending to be, Martha. Bit weird, but we'll run with it. I thought this was a really interesting scene, but wouldn't you be a bit pissed off if you were Bruce? You've been through all this stuff, and the Martian Manhunter has done nothing to help any of you at all.
It would.
Hey, well done. Your parents would be so proud.
To me, it didn't. To me, I loved the Supergirl series. And to me, when I saw him, I screamed because all I could see was John Jones, the character in Supergirl. And I loved it. And while he's a Martian Manhunter, he's a green Martian. There's white Martians too, but there's green Martians. And I don't know if this is linked, but this is how I saw it. So I don't actually know if he is a green Martian in this. But in the Supergirl series, John Jones is a green Martian and he looks like that. So pretty the same. And why he works for like this, I can't remember what the frigging company, whatever it is anyway, but he works for a humankind thing and he's disguised as a human, totally fine, but he stays out of it because his whole race was destroyed because of white Martians. So I didn't see it as that. To me, I saw it was a bit of self-preservation, and maybe now he knows that Earth will be protected, and now he feels safe enough to maybe step out the next time around and help because there's people there to have his back. That's how I saw it, but that's only because I linked it with John Jones from Supergirl, and I know the Green Martian history as such. Like, he's the last surviving Green Martian in Supergirl, so is he the same in this? I don't know how it all plays in together, but probably so wrong, but that's how my brain saw it and understood it. And I will stick with that theory in my head because it makes me feel safe when I go to bed at night.
Well, I heard James describing Bruce's place as a cum garage, and then I didn't hear anything else.
Not quite. I think you heard what you wanted to, didn't you?
All I thought was a cum garage. Yeah, he's nailed a lot of women there. We do see him having sex with a woman. Well, he wakes up the next day and takes pills. Yes. I don't think they're Viagra. I think they're maybe some sort of ibuprofen type things, some anti-inflammatories because his joints are fucked. But yes, I can't even think now because I'm too busy. I've gone off into a completely different world altogether. Yes, Martian Manhunter comment appearing at that point. Yes, he is the last of his race, and he appears. Actually, that character appears in the other movies too. In fact, he's Lois's source in the Batman versus Superman extended cut.
That's correct. Yeah.
Where these rounds had, where they'd been sourced from and what their composition was. It was quite exciting. But from what I read as well, the reason why Martian Manhunter was some fan theory was circulating on the internet, and Snyder saw it and thought, oh, that's quite a good idea. I think I'll use it. And that's why he seemed to be sort of flitting around on the edges. I did. I liked it. I mean, he's a good character. The fact that he's last of his race and he's terrified of fire and everything, and he's been used quite well in the comics at times.
So that is true. So I'm not wrong. I'm not wrong.
I can't remember about the White Martian business in the comics. All I remember is that
about him being the last of his race. I mean, sorry.
Yes, he's definitely the last of his race. And he's terrified of fire as well. That's his weak bit. He's scared of fire. But yeah, I think you're right. I think suddenly he thought he wouldn't just be out on his own, that he would have. There is actually a cadre here of heroes that are willing to put themselves on the line, that are actually proving themselves. Plus, he knows he knows that the storm is coming, that Darkseid's on his way, using his special Martian Yaki Dash stuff. So he thought, these people can't cope with it. I mean, this man's cum garage is simply not going to be able to stand the Darkseid. Darkseid, I'm doing it again. Yeah. I mean, the Darkseid. So even with all the cum holding up the walls, you don't feel being enough structural strength and integrity. even bad cum not going to work in this occasion.
Wow. Really? Come on.
Really?
Move on.
It's really not going to work. Gabrielle, you're sitting in a shed at the moment. Is that your cum shed?
Right. I'm gonna not even answer that. I will not dignify that with an answer.
Just going to say, Gabrielle, this is a tame conversation for me and Joanne. You do know this, right?
Yeah, thanks. Joanne has seen me and how I get 10 cards against humanity, so she knows how squirmy I actually get, and this is really nothing.
So I will end with the question that I always want to ask, which is, what do you give it out of 10? And who would like to go first?
10? You know what happens every time you say to me, what would you give it out of 10? And I usually
you give me something out of 5.
And I always answer, I give March out of 10.
Really? You hate it that much? You've seen its praises earlier.
That's exactly it. I always get a bit confused. I think I would give it out of 10. Now, I was actually about to say 4.5, but that's out of 5. I think I would give this a 9.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 10, I would definitely give her 1.
Give her 1, you boy.
Give her 1. No, I would say 8.5, maybe. Just because I didn't like that it left you with so many teasers that'll never be fulfilled. That's it. That's probably the only thing.
I think Joanne's having a rave down in the bottom.
Yes, I'm gonna actually turn the light on because it's got very dark in here in my cum garage. There we go.
So if you could improve anything about the film, what would you improve? And I'm going to go with Gabrielle first because Joanne answered the first question last time.
What would I improve? And this is why I'm not a movie director. I have no real answer. I don't know, if I'm totally honest. I genuinely can't think of what would improve it, because Snyder did improve so much on the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Then asking for any more is just basically asking for more movies. And that is, for him to improve the first one, he had to extend it so much. So for it to be improved anymore, it would just be, give us some more movies. Like, we're getting the Flash movie, thank God, which is going to be good. I just think he done enough in this film to give the unknown characters the perfect story arc. Even the likes of Cyborg's dad was given more meat to his bones. There was more There was more stuff around him. There was just more to everyone, and it filled them out more, that it made it a very satisfying quickie at the end of the day.
It's ironic that you said meat on the guy's bones, because with what happens to him, there ain't no bones, ain't no meat, ain't no nothing. Yep. So, Joanne.
Well, I think, something I mentioned earlier, I wouldn't have made Batman so vulnerable. That's probably my only criticism. It took it out of me, a wee bit away from the film, because I thought Batman is never this vulnerable. He was also a wee bit humble at times in ways that Batman usually isn't. But that's probably because I've come from a point of view of being a huge Batman for many decades. And this wasn't the Batman that Affleck had played before. I seen parts of it, but Batman was a wee bit too much like a secondary character at times. I just thought he could have been, I don't know. I wish he just had been a bit more independent. I don't know. I mean, I really liked the portrayal of Wonder Woman. I was so glad to see her as a proper Amazon again. That was great. And obviously, I loved seeing the Amazons. The Atlanteans didn't really mean anything to me. Yes, it was nice to see them, but and their costumes were great, but they didn't really feature too much in my radar. But yes, I think it would be Batman. And yeah, I really want to see what's going to happen next. I wish it had been as well, possibly a series. Well, actually, what they were going to talk about initially, I think, was a movie and then a series. That might have been quite good. I'd like to have seen a lot more of this. I think this could have easily been a series like they did The Watchmen. You could have easily had 10, 12 episodes out of this. Because gone are the days of the 22 episodes that would have happened in each series from an American series. You know, it used to be 22 episodes per season. They don't do that anymore. It's like 10 or 12, which I think kind of sells things short at times. Yeah, that's probably what I'd done. I would have just expanded it more. As Gabrielle said, I'm greedy. I just want to see more. Don't leave it this way. Don't leave me this way, as the Communards sang.
Yeah. I think what you're telling me is, John, you want the full length and girth.
I do. I want it all. I want to take it all. I want the full Henry Cavill experience. Don't shortchange me. I'm nearly there. Don't pull out too soon.
So how would I rate this film? I would definitely give it 9 out of 10. I am still eternally grateful that this film actually came out. I think it's done a huge service to the fan community, and I just think it was an incredibly well put together film. It still has the wow factor for me. You know, I can watch it again. I can at some point watch the black and white version, which I thought, you know, I know it's just a change in colour saturation or removal of colour, but I think it'll be an interesting change in tone to see that cut. What would I do differently? I'd like to have seen a bit more of Jim Gordon, to be honest. I think he was a used character. He was just in and out. And I think, because he was very much designed to look like the proper comic book style with the way J.K. Simmons, wasn't it, was playing him. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of how that actually looked and how the relationship could have been there. But yeah, I would have liked to maybe have seen a bit more of Batman being a bit more grumpy as he normally is.
He was too nice.
But again, maybe the idea is that he's feeling, well, he feels he owes, society and Superman, I guess, for what's happened. And I would have actually liked to have seen more Jeremy Irons, because Jeremy Irons as Alfred is brilliant, and I think that would have been really good. And if I could improve it really in any way, give us part 2, give us part 3. That is the only real huge improvement I could see. But as a film goer, as a comic book fan, I absolutely have loved this. I'm just glad that things that in the past would have been a complete myth that we could only dreamt about, we've actually seen a film released as it should have been. And I think that's just great.
Yep, I got to start the campaign, release the Rogue One cut, the one that we never seen, that was in the trailers. Back to Star Wars again. I don't know what is with me tonight, but yes, that's the one that I would really love to see. The Rogue One that was in the trailers, we never seen that one with the stormtroopers coming out of the sea and Mon Mothma saying, I have a job for you, to Jyn Erso. We never got to see all that. So there's also another version as well of Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yes,
I've heard that,
a 17, like an 18, like an X-rated version. Yep. I want to see it so bad.
And I think that would be a nice salute to Robin Williams. I think that would be a great idea too.
Hello.
Well, on that, I think she's a perfect place to sign off. I think we've been talking more than enough celluloid Codswallop. We've all gone in maybe a bit down because we've had to discuss the fact there won't, be any of these future films. We're coming out happy having discussed it and talk about the future films we want to see in different cuts. So what I will say is, because I do also like we throw out this out to the salty tadpoles, which is, do you have any films you would like to see released that have never been released? And did you also, any of you, guess Gabrielle's word? Because I still don't think we've got an answer to that, have we?
I don't think so.
No.
And I said it earlier. There's a clue. No, I said a lot of words earlier, and I have to say, I think our new word might be cum garage. That's hyphenated, by the way, so it's all
I don't mind the word. It's just, oh my God, there's only so much cum you can swallow.
See, we're getting you as filthy as me and Joanne. This is wonderful. Soon we'll be totally X-rated podcast soon.
Oh, fuck.
Explicit, baby, explicit.
So, without further ado, or to do however you say, I have been James.
I'm Batman.
And I've been me.
And we've been talking of celluloid Codswallop. Have a good one, everybody.
Ciao.